Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS, presented by Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor. Now, it's real time.
Welcome back, everyone. We have Chris V here in the studio, owner-operator of Chris V's Guide Service. We love to have him into the studio, shares some great insight. And that tech tip that you left us with last time that you were here literally boggled a lot of people's minds as far as the cup plug. We're not going to dive into that today, but that was a thing. That turned into a thing. It was a great one. We all appreciate that. But winter steelhead, man, it's right around the corner.
It's coming.
I know that it's one of your favorite fisheries. We still got a lot of stuff between then and now, of course, before it gets too, far into that winter steelhead season. But what are you up to? I know that you were just recently traveling, and now you're back to do a little bit of work.
Yeah, I was up on the Olympic Peninsula fishing up there with, they've got a great silver run up there with bigger, nicer silvers. And I usually make a trip up there with a good friend every year and spend a couple days with our favorite guide up there, Bob Ball.
Okay.
And catch a bunch of silvers and a few Chinook, late Chinook too. And
no, he actually showed me a photo in the commercial break of a toad, of a silver. How was the fishing while you were there?
We did have rising water conditions, which made it a little challenging, but there's still enough fish around that you can get a few to bite. So we didn't have a real big day numbers wise, but we caught plenty of fish to keep the day interesting.
Yeah,
so
good.
I mean, a big day up there is 20 or 30 fish.
Sure.
And but yeah, it was more like 6 to 10 fish.
Well, and you still got a little bit of salmon fishing that you're going to be doing with clients before you start getting serious?
I've got trips Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday this week, and then a couple next week right before Thanksgiving, and then I'm hanging it up for salmon.
Gotcha. And then when you get serious, or when do you plan on starting getting serious about winter steelhead? Is there a calendar date that you kind of said, okay, this is what we're doing?
Well, I will go out on my own or with friends right before Christmas and start looking around, and there's a certain few places that get some early fish. But I will start with clients right after Christmas, and I'm starting to book up already, so I'm getting ready for that.
You still have room?
I still have some room, I just got my calendar here a couple weeks ago, so.
Okay, yeah. You're one of the guides that's able to do that, right?
Yeah.
He's booking it as it's coming, so you actually have a little window there if you want to get out on a drift boat trip?
Yeah, drift boat trips.
Drift boat trip on the coast is crispy. You saw it here first, everyone. Put his info up. Somebody's going to be calling him before we get out of here. Anyway. Okay, so let's say it's that latter part of December, after Christmas. You've got clients that are in the boat. You have a rough idea, and I'm just kind of mapping this a little bit. So you've already been out, you kind of got a little bit of an idea of what you can expect. How do you actually go after them that early in the season? What's your preferred way to go after them?
Well, covering water is going to be important because we aren't in the peak of the season yet. There's going to be some scattered fish here and there that we're going to look for, and we're going to cover a lot of water. Move a lot of miles if we have to get our gear in front of some fish. So bobber dogging is a great technique for that. Or fishing a bead or some eggs, even some real eggs, a yarny or a worm like these here. Don't be afraid to bobber dog a worm. Yeah, and that's a great technique for covering water. They can see the worm from quite a ways away. And it shows up well, and you know how they are. They hate worms, meaning they hate them so much they want to kill them.
Yeah, they want to eat them.
And so the worm is a great early season technique. And then if I find that there's some fish holding in some spots, then I'm going to get these plugs out and start running some plugs, usually on a second drift behind everybody.
So this is kind of find them with the beads and bobber dogging with the worms. And I got to come back to the worms here. Not very many people bobber dog worms. I personally only know a couple that do. And I don't really know why that is, to be very honest with you. Anytime that you can change the presentation so it doesn't look like everything else that's going down the river, it just makes sense to try something that's got a different profile, right? And I'm as guilty of it as anybody. I think a lot of us, we just start bulking up sizes or changing sizes of beads or whatever else. This changes everything.
Yeah.
But when you're fishing these bobber dogging them, do you have to change how your clients are fishing? Do you change how you're positioning the boat, or you just fish it the same way?
I fish them the same way I do a bead.
Gotcha.
Absolutely the same way. 36-inch leader. I rig them a little differently, as you might see there.
Yeah, I kind of noticed there. You've got the tubing on there.
Yeah, and they're rigged what a lot of people would call wacky style. And that's where I'll pull one off of here. That's where the leader actually comes out in the middle of the worm like this. And yes, I have a little bit of clear heat shrink tubing on there. That helps keep that worm from tearing. That was a trick I learned from reading an article about that Josiah Dar wrote years ago. He called it the worm wall, but it was a great technique, great tech tip, if you will. But if you rig your worms this way, wacky style, what that does is if Owen was a steelhead, it presents the worm this way, crossways to the steelhead, where he can see the whole profile.
Sure.
If you rig them the old school way, where the hook comes out near the tail and the leader comes out the head, this is what Owen, the steelhead, would see.
That's a good point.
So this way they get to see the whole profile, and that will probably entice them more so than if it was just a inline worm coming at you this way.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, kind of like, you know, bobber and jig or bobber and pink worm, where that jig can kind of move around a little bit and give it more of a profile. Makes sense. And I love the rigging idea as well, so you're not going to shred them. B&R holy worms, pretty darn good at that. So is that what one of those are?
That's the B&R. They call that the Bigfoot Canyon there. That's a great worm.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, so you find them, you're moving along with the drift boat, bobber dog, and you find a couple of fish that bite, and you mentioned that maybe you come back at them again on a second float, depending on systems or where that you might be.
Row back up and do it again.
Okay. Yeah. And then you come back at them with plugs.
Yeah, especially on a second drift. If there's not a bunch of people around, I don't like to block up the holes, you know. And so I'll do more plugging in spots where I'm not around people so much, and then I'll also come back behind people on a second drift and do it. Just again, I don't want to slow the flow down.
Okay, so all right, this is perfect timing. Brings us to a great question. Now, right now we're talking about drift boat fishing. Bank angling etiquette issues are very much different based on the situation that you're in, right? You're humping up and down the river. As a drift boat guide, right? I think what you just mentioned is some of the things that a lot of people overlook. Actually caring about the other people that are fishing. Because somebody could get, and correct me anywhere that I'm wrong here, somebody could get into an area and start back trolling and literally booger up an entire stretch where folks would typically be bobber dogging through. Not that they don't have a right to do that, right? But sometimes it's better just to give people a little bit of space and maybe understand where you are. Does that make sense? Well, I always like to give bank anglers a lot of room. Sure. You know, they're limited in the places that they can fish, and with a boat we can move through the river system, up and down, and so on. So we have an advantage, boaters have an advantage that way. So give the bank anglers some room, give them lots of space. If there's a bank angler or two in a hole, pass it by. Yeah. Or if you strike up a good conversation with them and, you know, they're friendly and maybe they're going to take a break and tie on a new rig, ask them if they mind if you drift through. Sure. And, you know, oftentimes they'll say yes. Every once in a while they'll say no. Yeah. But respect it and anytime somebody asks me to drift, because I'm a bank angler as well, anytime somebody actually takes the time to ask me, my first response is yes. Have fun. Yeah. You know, show me where they are. Yeah. Right? You know, that kind of thing. Hook a fish. I mean, who doesn't like to watch other people catch fish? Well, that also kind of, one of the things that Jack Glass mentioned 100 years ago is when he would go by in a boat, drift boating, it was the particular topic, is that he thought that kind of milled the fish up a little bit and it would become more snappy for the folks that were already bank fishing, and they might get, hey, you know, so is it true or not? I don't know. Jack knows more about this stuff than I'll ever know. But it's not a bad thing to just work together, for crying out loud, and just, go for it, man. Thanks for asking, because it is nice and refreshing for that to happen. Okay, so clarity obviously comes into play when you're talking about colors of plugs, but is there a color palette or color combos that you like more than another? Yeah, if you look inside my box, you see some patterns there. There's a lot of pinks and a lot of blues. Yeah. I'm a fan of blue, big time. Are you really? Yeah. Okay. Blue, but for both salmon and steelhead, blue is a great color. It's good in murky conditions. It shows up really well. It's also good in low clear conditions too. And you're famous for doctoring stuff. Did you doctor this? That's been a bit doctored, yeah. Yeah, dude, that is. Jared, if you're watching, man, I really like that. The pink that's on there, some of the black that you put on the bill, and some blue. Did you put that blue in there? Yes, I did. That is just some blue in there. A little accent. I mean, you're really well known for coming up with some stuff. I'm not going to, you know, everybody kind of knows that, but that's a really cool looking color. It actually just strikes me as a color that I could put on and just run. Off color, not off color. I mean, that just looks like one that you could just cover a lot of ground. First thing I'm going to notice, you do have tadpollies in there.
Got some
Any self-respecting plug puller for Steelhead is going to have some tadpollies in there. But sizes, I got to ask. So 3.5, obviously, mag lips. Has become extremely popular for folks pulling plugs for a reason. They're extremely effective. They fish great, and the Steelhead obviously like them. But do you ever scale down 3.0 or anything like that?
We've got some 3.0s right here, which I do get out when the water gets a little lower. This version of the plug, the 3.0, with a rattle in it, works really good in low, clear, cold conditions for me. My experience with the 3.0s is they don't work as well as the 3.5 in faster water. So
Makes
you
sense.
wanna, they will occasionally roll over unless you get them really tuned up and balanced out right with the right hooks. They tend to roll over a little bit if the water gets a little fast for them. Whereas the 3.5, it stays down.
Right.
That plug is.
So would you say the 3.5 is your primary?
Primary in most water conditions, the 3.5 I use. I mean, I have a whole array of different plugs that I use for different water conditions. There's some old school hot shots in here too, little size 40s. I've got some K11X quick fish that I use for low clear water again. I'm the kind of guy that looks around, looks at a plug and says, does it have a rattle in it or does it not have a rattle in it?
Good point, yeah.
And I like rattles when there's a little color to the water or the water's really cold and it may get their attention a little bit more. There are times when the water's clear and the fish might be a little spookier that I don't want to rattle. I've been trying to get Jared to make me a 3.5 without a rattle.
Oh, I can
I'm going to keep twisting his arm.
I can show you how to doctor it up the right way to do that, to get rid of that rattle with the plug right out of the package, but it'll white knuckle you. It's an interesting way to do it. Anyway, I got to cut to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue talking winter steelhead with Chris Bertopoulos. I want to talk a little bit about probably, and I laugh because there's a reason for it, beads. Okay, I know we talked about worms and some other things. There's ways that that you can find yourself to be more successful running around beads. As you can tell, I got like 12 thoughts going on when you talk about beads. We'll be right back.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by Chevy Silverado and the impressive Turbo Max engine. Flex your muscle with the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever. Official truck of Outdoor GPS.